When we look at workplace investigations, there are really two key parts: fact-finding and analysis. They're different stages of the process, but they're closely connected, and you can't really do one properly without the other. Fact-finding is the starting point. It's all about gathering information in a structured, fair, and unbiased way. The goal here is simple: figure out what actually happened based on evidence, not assumptions, opinions, or gut feelings. In practice, that means collecting information through things like interviews, reviewing documents, looking at digital records, and sometimes visiting locations or sites. Good fact-finding is methodical. You don't just collect random information. You're trying to build a clear picture of the basic details: who was involved, what happened, where it happened, and when it took place. You can think of fact-finding as building the foundation of the investigation. On its own, it doesn't give you answers or conclusions, it just gives you the raw information you need to work with next. Analytical investigation is the next step, and this is where you start making sense of everything you've collected. It's about taking those individual pieces of information and asking, what does this actually mean? At this stage, you're not just listing facts anymore, you're evaluating them. You're looking at how reliable they are, how they fit together, and whether they actually make sense when you compare different accounts. A big part of analysis is credibility assessment, basically figuring out which version of events is more believable when people disagree. You look at things like whether a statement is plausible, whether someone might have a reason to be untruthful, and whether there's independent evidence that supports what they're saying. You also test different possible explanations. Instead of locking onto the first theory that seems to fit, you explore multiple possibilities and see which one the evidence actually supports. This helps reduce bias and prevents you from jumping to conclusions too early. In stronger investigations, you also look at the bigger picture: what went wrong, and more importantly, why it happened. That's where root cause thinking comes in, helping identify whether there are deeper issues like broken processes, weak controls, or systemic gaps. How fact-finding and analysis work together in a well-structured investigation. Fact-finding and analysis are usually treated as separate stages. First, you gather the evidence, then you analyze it. Keeping them separate helps maintain objectivity. Put simply, fact-finding answers what happened, analysis answers why did it happen, and what does the evidence actually show. Fact-finding is about collecting and preserving information. Analysis is about interpreting it and resolving what it all means. Fact-finding gives you the pieces of the puzzle. Analysis puts those pieces together into a coherent picture, and this distinction really matters. If you only do fact-finding without proper analysis, you end up with a lot of information but no clear conclusion. On the other hand, if you jump into analysis without solid fact-finding, you risk filling in the gaps with assumptions and bias instead of evidence.